all the attributes that I'm associating with the object, and the object name is car. So that is why we call it object-oriented programming, because all the things, all the development environment, all the everything, like if I am actually using a car, so it refers to the car, and that is why we call it object-centric programming in Java. And then we have the runtime environment. So every single application that runs on a machine, whether it be a mobile application, whether it be a desktop application, it requires some runtime environment. By runtime environment, I would say the sandbox that it runs into. So the Java standard class libraries, which provide the application the programming interface, that is, one can interact with the program, all right, or the application or the running code, and the JVM together, they form the JRE or the runtime environment, so that if you have anything to run up onto the device, so it can run it. So it is like very much like a sandboxing that is achieved through the JRE. Then we have the Java Development Kit, which is the JDK. So the JDK provides all the needed support for the software development in Java. So if I talk about, say, multiplication, you might be using some math utils. All right. So if I talk about, say, date utils, you might be using some date conversion utils in Java application. So this is the part that is taken care of the JDK. It provides you all the necessary supports in order to utilize a particular API when you are building your Java applications. I hope this is clear to everyone. What is Java, what exactly is the JRE, and what is JDK? If not, you can quickly write it down to the chat window. And even if you feel like speaking up in the mid of the session, if you feel like speaking up, you can just raise your hands. In which case, in the case which I'll be allowing you every single attendee to speak up. Right. So I need active participation from all the attendees that I have in the session today. So I need quick responses. Yes, if I ask you something, you have to respond with a yes or no. And if you have any queries, you have to just write up the query, and so that I'll be actually taking it up. So I hope this is clear to everyone. The Java, JRE, and the JDK components. You have access to the chat window here. So Shashank says, please repeat the JRE part. All right, I'll do that for you, Shashank. So when I talk about the Java runtime environment, all right, say I have some piece of code and I'm running that piece of code. So that piece of code actually runs on a machine. It could be a mobile device, it could be a desktop application, or any particular application. So the running of this piece of code is actually governed by the runtime environment, or you can say a sandbox, wherein my application utilizes some virtual memory onto the desktop or say onto the mobile device, and my application actually runs itself. So that is what is the JRE here, Shashank. I hope this is clear to you now. All right. So any person having any doubts here other than Shashank, can you just write it onto the chat window? If you do not have any doubts, you can just write a no, because that is only when I'll be actually moving ahead. So now let's talk about how the Java virtual machine exactly works. So the Java virtual machine, what it does is it runs the bytecode. So whenever I'll be compiling a Java file or the .class file, what I'll be getting is I'll be getting a bytecode. So it is always, when people, if you people are not aware about, let's talk about it. Java is a completely platform independent language. By platform independent, I say I have a piece of code, all right, and I can run it anywhere on any particular machine that I feel like running it up. So how does this platform independence come from? How it exactly happens? So here we have the bytecode. So if I talk about the Java servlets, all right, so what I have is I have this Java servlets over the internet, and whenever I view a web page, what exactly I do is I actually view the bytecode, and then I'll just take an example for this here. So I'll open up Paint for all of you to just show you an example here. Suppose this is the layer that is at the bottom, or you can say the operating system or the hardware layer. Now I have a virtual machine which sits on top of this hardware, which is called the Java virtual machine. And what it does is it actually converts something which we call the bytecode. So this is the bytecode that I have here. I'll just take a spotlight for everyone. So this is the bytecode that I have here. All right. So this bytecode along with the JVM, it actually does the platform independence, or gives the Java language the platform independence. And what happens is the Java virtual machine does the compilation and the interpretation of the Java bytecode, and it finally gets say instructed by the machine instructions, and everything that needs to be executed on a particular machine are actually handled by the machine instructions. So it is like a Java bytecode then a conversion from JVM of the bytecode to something which the machine can understand, and then finally execution of the machine language program. I hope this is clear to everyone now, what exactly I mean here. I have a hand raised from Ankur. Yes, Ankur, you can speak now.
So why it is called platform independent and C and C++ and other languages are not called platform independent? Rather than you are speaking about Java virtual machine and the bytecode.
Right.
As we program in C, C++ or C#, any other language, we also have some softwares. We also have some bytecodes. They also generated. We compile them and generate bytecodes or other class files, and they run on any system where the software is installed. Then why only this software is called platform independent and other are not?
All right, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, Ankur. Suppose if I take an example of a Java file, all right. So I have a Java web page, all right. And what I have is I have a Java page over the internet. Okay. Now what I have is I have the complete Java servlet sitting on top of the internet, and I do not have any particular, say, Java virtual machine sitting on top of the machine, but I can still view that web page. So that is what exactly the Java platform independence needs. While in the case of, say, any program written in C or C++ or any other language, what I have is I have a Turbo C compiler which sits on top of my hardware, right? So I have, whenever I do compilation, I actually have a Turbo C compiler which will be doing it for me. If I try to run a piece of code onto my single standalone machine, all right, I'll be needing a Turbo C compiler. So that is why Java is called platform independence, just because it can run on any hardware. All right, just understand this very carefully. It can run on any hardware, but it is always backed up by a VM. That is the virtual machine which it can run on. All right, which is not the case with other programming languages, Ankur.
So what you are saying, only one property of Java language, which is called applet, makes it platform independent.
No,
because
it's not about
while we are running any other applications which have window, it cannot be opened in any other systems which do not have Java virtual machine.
It's just that, Ankur, sometimes you might have faced a question here. I'll just give you an example. If you do not have the VM or Java runtime environment installed on your machine, you might have faced, whenever you might have opened a website, you might have faced the Java runtime is out of date. Have you ever faced that?
Yes, I have faced that, some problems like that. But the only feature, applet, which is used in Java, it doesn't have its own window. It always be open in Internet Explorer and other web browsers.
Correct.
While we are while we develop any application, we have to install Java virtual machine in our system. Then we can run it. Without Java virtual machine, we cannot run any application. We can run applet. Yeah, I agree with you. But we cannot run Java any application. So that is what I am asking about.
That's correct. It's very much like, it's not about being specific about two applets, or say because of the feature of applets you can say Java is platform independent. There are n number of other factors which actually give it a platform independence feeling. It's not just the applets, Ankur.
Can you
that's what I tried to tell you. It's like when I told you about when we do not have any particular, say, runtime environment, you might have seen the Java runtime environment is out of date. So these are few examples wherein the platform independence also loses its sheen. It's not about only the, I would say, the applet part that is actually helping it up. All right, there are a few more features which are actually make the Java language a platform independent field.
Okay, thanks, sir.
All right. So as I told you, we have the hardware at the bottom, or the operating system, then we have the runtime environment, and then we have the complete Java bytecode. So this is how it works. All right. So let's move to the presentation. So here we have the Java virtual machine, which actually runs the bytecode. Then it makes the bytecode is the one that makes the Java platform independent, along with the virtual machine. And we also handles the memory management all by itself. So you might have come across the various functions like allocation, malloc, alloc in C languages. So here we have in Java, we as programmers are not responsible for the memory management. It is actually taken care of by the Java runtime environment itself. So if I talk about C languages, which are primitive languages, wherein I had to allocate the memory allocations, and I use the similar deallocation method to deallocate the memory all by myself. And it was like sometimes we might have faced a problem wherein we get all the heap memory growing, it keeps growing, and finally we just get a crash, because we are the ones who are actually managing the allocation and deallocation of objects. In the case of Java, we have a thread which is called the garbage collector. It is called the daemon thread, which actually runs in the background and keeps clearing up all the non-required objects in the program by itself. So here the memory area in JVM where the objects are created are called the heap, and the memory is freed during runtime by a special thread called the GC. So I've already told you about the garbage collector here. So what the GC does is it looks for the objects which are no longer needed by the program, and then finally it destroys them. Right? So here we have a heap area here. Suppose in the heap area I have allocated an n number of objects. So what I do is, as soon as the object gets removed from the heap, that is the GC runs, and what it does is it looks for the objects that are no longer needed in the memory, and it just cleans up those objects. I hope this is clear to everyone how the GC works. Can you just write it onto the chat window? All right. So let's start with the compilers here. How exactly the Java works. So we have the Java compilers that convert your code from human readable to something called the Java bytecode. So this is the suppose I have written a class file which is called the .class file, and once I do a level of compilation, the single level of compilation, I get something which is called the bytecode. Then the bytecode is interpreted by the Java virtual machine, which operates very much like a physical CPU to actually execute the compiled code. So here we have another level of compilation plus the interpretation, which is handled by the JVM. So what it does is it takes the bytecode and does another level of compilation and interpretation on the bytecode that is already getting compiled. And the compiler that is used by the Java virtual machine is the just-in-time compiler. So the just-in-time compiler is the program that turns the Java bytecode into instructions that can be sent directly to the processors. Let's take a look at it with the help of an example here. So here I have a compile time environment, and here I have a runtime environment. So here if I have a Java file, which is the .java file, then what I do is I do a level of compilation, and after that level of compilation, what I get is I get a Java bytecode or the .class file. All right. So this Java bytecode, as was told to you by Ankur as well, that it is called the applet. So when this particular file gets transferred over from the internet, or it can be also residing on the same machine here. So we have the Java class loader and the bytecode verifier. So it will be verifying the bytecode for the correctness of the bytecode. Then we have the complete virtual machine, which is holding the interpreter, it is holding the just-in-time compiler and the runtime system of its own. Then what it does is it does all the necessary level of I would say conversion of the bytecode into machine instructions, which are finally handled by the operating system and penultimately by the hardware. I hope this is clear to everyone how exactly Java works. If not, you can write it onto the chat window so that I can explain it to you again. Ankur says no. Yes, Ankur, what is it in this particular part that you are not able to understand here? You can write it onto the chat window. I'll wait for Ankur to write up if he has any queries here. Ankur says the Java compiler part is not clear. Which one? From the JVM or from the compile time environment that we are talking about? Alright, so you're saying that JVM is not clear here. So Ankur, as I told you, we have the Java bytecode here. Presently we have the bytecode here. Alright, then we have the Java virtual machine, which is housing a just-in-time compiler, and along with that we have the Java interpreter. So all the instructions are actually also compiled and interpreted, and then we have the runtime environment, which actually does the conversion of this complete compiled code and the interpreted code and then it finally gets handled by the operating system. Any other doubts here, Ankur? You can write that up onto the chat window. All right. So this is how it works. Any other person having, apart from Ankur, having any doubts here in this complete scenario as to how Java works now? All right. So let's start again. So what is the basic Java syntax? Let's talk about the basic Java syntax, what exactly Java uses and how it uses them. So we have various data types that define the nature of a value. So we need different data types to handle real world information. It could be a long, it could be an int, it could be short, byte. I'll just take a few examples for here. So in order to create a new Java application, you need to, I hope everybody has got the Eclipse environment setup done on your respective machines. I hope everybody has got the Eclipse environment setup for Android application done on your respective machines. You can just write it onto the chat window with a yes or no. All right, so everybody has not got it done. So what I'll do is as soon as you'll be getting this environment setup done on your respective machines, what you'll be finding is under the file section, once you'll be getting all the installations done, you'll be having an Eclipse environment setup on your respective machines, and where you'll be finding, go to file, go to new, right, file new, and then here you will be finding a new application project, Java application project. All right, so I click on Java project. Here I can create a new Java project. So I'll create a new sample project. All right, then it uses a execution runtime environment. So presently I have got 1.6 and 1.7 also installed. So I'll use the latest one, which is Java SDK 1.7, and then I click on finish. It shows me the folder structuring that it is going to create in my application. I click on finish. As soon as I click on finish here, it will be creating a new Java project for me, and you can see the project is actually here. You have a J in front of the project, so it shows you that it is the Java project that Eclipse is housing. So in order to use any class or create any class, here I'll go to new class, and here I can create a new class. So here I'll say test class. I'll just name it as test class here. But people are not aware about every Java class that I'm trying to create in my application are actually having a parent class, which is called the object class, because object is the supremacy, or is holding the complete supremacy over all the classes in Java. It is necessary that every particular Java class has a parent class as the object class. Right, so I do a finish here. As soon as I do a finish here, it opens up a test class for me. In Java, what we have is, in order to execute or say run any particular sample of code onto the device, all right, we need a standing, I would say we need a point wherein we can start it up. All right, so you can see if I'm actually having, suppose 10 classes in my application, all right, and I need to make that all the flow of classes from 1 to second to third, and something like this. Right, so in order to achieve that, I have a method which says public static void main, and here I pass in as string arguments. All right, so this is the normal method convention that we have here in order to run any particular Java class onto the device. So this method is required in all the Java, in any one of the Java classes that I'm housing. Suppose I have created 10 Java classes. I need to have this void main in one of the Java classes. So the execution of the program that I'm trying to build will actually happen from this particular test class, because it is the one that is holding the PSVM, or the public static void main. Now let's take a look at the signature of this method here. So when I say public, what I mean by public is that this method is publicly accessible. By public identifier, I say all the non-class members, or say all the non-class objects, can also use this particular method. All right. Then I have static. So what I mean by static is it has got just one single instance of the complete public static void main method in the application. So here when I say static, I mean it has just got one single instance running throughout the application. Then we have the void. So void is the return time of the method main, which is it does not return anything here. Then we have the identifier, which is called the main. So this is the keyword that we use for the public static void main. Right? Then we have the string arguments. So since we are not going to use this up from the command line, but people who are actually who have worked with Java might be knowing that we actually code the Java applications onto the notepad, and then we do a run on the Java application with the help of a command line tool. If we are not using Eclipse to run my applications. Alright, so whenever I'll be using a command line tool, I can actually pass in arguments from the command line tool to my application. So this is how it works. Alright, so here what I'll do is I'll just do a normal system out, that is print something onto the console with the help of the Java application. I say this is the first Java class. Alright, so once I do that, I'll just, in order to run this up onto the machine here, what I'll do is I'll go to console here and I just do a sample project, right click, do a run as, I say Java application, and here you can see the console output, which says this is my first Java class. I hope that this complete example, the PSVM and the system out, is clear to everyone. How I created a class, how I utilize that class in my application. If you have any problems, any queries, you can write it onto the chat window. I need some quick responses from everyone so that we can cover majority of the chunk that we have up within these hours. I'll wait for everybody to respond up. Alright, so I have a poll question before I move ahead with this topic here. I have a poll question for all of you here. What if I give my main method a private access modifier? What problem I might come across? Is it the compile time error, or is it the compile time warning? So I need a response from this for this poll question from every single attendee here. What will happen if I have actually given this method modifier as a private instead of the public? So I'll wait for everybody to vote up, and going by the voting responses, I see 75% people have voted up for the compile time error and 25% people have voted up for the compile time warning. So let's see what exactly will happen here. So I'll do it for you here. Instead of public, I'll change it up to private. And once I do that, you can see there is no compile time error at present here. But I have a warning. Let's see what this warning says. It says remove method main, because it is actually not able to access it. And if I do a run as, let's see whether I do get a runtime exception or not, which I'll get in this case. And here it says selection does not contain a main type, because I have actually restricted the access of this method to just this class, which I cannot actually do that, because if I try to do that, I will not have access to this particular method and I cannot actually run this up onto my device, onto my machine. So that is why we have got a runtime, we have got a compile time warning, but we have a runtime exception in this case. I hope everybody got this complete why we actually got a runtime exception here. And we had a compile time warning when I tried to change it up. I'll wait for everybody to just respond back quickly with a yes or no. Alright, so let's also take care about the various data types that we have in Java. So a normal data type that you people might have used in all the programming languages is the integer data types. Alright, so I say I create an integer data type here and I initialize it with the value 18. So what I have done is I have created an integer and I have done the definition and the initialization in the same part. While I can do it other ways also. So here I have age and I can initialize it here and declare it here. So here we have declaration, and here we have the initialization, and I can also combine it here. All right. So this is how it works up. And if I want to output the value of this variable here, what I'll just do is I say the age variable is, I do a concatenation to the string here, and I just output the value of the age variable. In which case, when I try to run as Java application and I say the age variable is 18. Alright, so this is how you can utilize the various variables in Java. Because since we are not actually concerned about, say, taking user input at this point of time, because we'll be more focusing more on Android applications, and in Android applications we'll be doing that. But for the time being, we'll just keep it to basics in Java, and when we'll be moving into Android, we'll be actually touching up many modifier concepts. Alright, so here, as I told you, we have got various data types wherein we have various ranges of data types depending upon the type of data they can hold. So we have various ranges for data types. An integer holds 4 bytes of memory, a short holds 2 bytes of memory, similarly a byte, a double holds 8 bytes of memory, and similarly a float holds 4 bytes of memory. Similarly, this way it all completely works up. Alright, any person having any doubts with the data types, you can write it onto the chat window. Alright, so we have primitive data types and we have primitive variables. So what I just want to actually emphasize here by primitive data types is, if I try to create, say, int age equal to new int, alright, and if I try to do a control S here, what it will do is it will actually show me an error here. Alright, and it says this is not allowed. Alright, while if I do a string, I say string str equal to new string, this is allowable here. So why this is allowable and why the integer and say float is not allowable here is because integer, float, char are all called the primitive data types. When I talk about the primitive data types, you cannot have the new operator to create a new instance of the primitive data type, right? And these are the only ones that are not objects, because it actually, if you are creating a new instance, what happens is you are allocating some memory or say new memory to the object, which will actually create performance issues in Java. So that is why these particular primitive data types have been kept as something which cannot be instantiated, which cannot be called objects. So these are called the primitive data types here. Alright, I hope everybody understands this, what I mean by a new operator here, what I tried to do with the new operator here. Because everybody is coming from, I think, computer science background, and the people might be aware about the new operator here. I need responses from everyone here quickly. Alright. So what is the naming convention that is followed in Java? So a Java variable can start with a letter, an underscore, or a dollar sign, right? But it can never start with a number. So here are some of the popular naming conventions here, which are the correct naming convention instead. So let's take an example here. If I try to create a variable int age starting with a number, alright, it will give me an error here. Alright, and it says syntax error on token 9, delete this token. While if I just do a succeed here, it will work fine. So this is how it works up. And these are the normal Java naming conventions here. But before I move on to the operators, I have a poll question for everyone here, which I'll just launch for everyone here. The name of the variable is known as its. Is it called the identifier? Is it called the constant? Is it called the data type, or is it called the base? You all can respond to this poll question onto your polling windows here. I'll wait for everybody to type up, or say I would wait for everybody to vote up onto the polling window. So I think everybody has got it correct. It is the option A, which is the identifier. All right. So here we have different operators. We have the equal to operator, we have the greater than operator. Let's talk about operators as well. Let's try using a few operators here. So I can use a multiplication operator here. I say 18 into, I say 2. What I'm doing here is I'm actually having the age variable to hold the value 36, because age multiplied by 2 would be 36. All right. So let's just comment it up and just run it up. Similar to the, I would say similar to the integer variable, what I can also have is I can have a float variable. I can have a boolean variable here. So a boolean variable, what it does, it holds one of the two values. I say is legal to vote, for example. When I say it, I say initialize it with false here. And what I do here is I'll just do an if case here. If I say age is greater than equal to 18, then what I'll do is I'll sys out that the age is eligible to vote. Right. And I also do is legal to vote equal to true. So what I'm doing here is I'm just outputting that this age is eligible to vote and is legal to vote equal to true. All right. Then similarly, I do a switch case here. I say if is legal to vote. What I can also do is I can do a sys out here. The candidate is legal to vote. Just a normal conditional that I'm trying to do here. So what I'll do is age is 18, it is greater than or equal to 18, so I'll be actually outputting these two lines here. I'll just comment it up. Just to let people know that how am I doing the multi-line comment here. What I'm doing is I'm just selecting all the lines here and I'm doing a control and a forward slash. Again, a control and a forward slash again would uncomment, and a control and a forward slash would comment up. All right. So it's just to let you know what all shortcuts I'm using up. And in order to get the auto completion, as you might have seen, what you should do is I type in A and I want to get the variable age here. I do a control space and here it shows me the auto suggestions. All right, so control space and the control forward slash after selection are the two shortcuts that I have told you. Shashank has asked me a question here. Don't we compile the program in Eclipse? Shashank, what happens in Eclipse is the compilation and the actual execution of the program is handled by the Eclipse IDE only. All right, so I'll just show you here. Here we have all the compilation, we have all the runtime environments that we have up for Eclipse. All right, so this is how it runs up. You can also debug this up. You can also run this up. It is always compilation plus the execution that is handled by the Eclipse environment. Shashank. I hope this is clear to everyone. Then we also have logical operators. So if I say, since I have set this value to true at this point of time, all right, and if I say if age is greater than equal to 18, I do an and which is an operator for the and operations. So it means that both the conditions should be true at this point of time. And I say it is legal to vote. That is, it should be age should be greater than 18, greater than equal to 18, and it should be legal to vote. And what I'll say out here, I say both the conditions are met. All right. So just a normal AND operator usage here. What it will do is it will check for both the conditions and it will run on only the successful execution of both the conditions. You can see that now. And what if I do here, I initialize this variable to 16. Now it should not output this value, because now what happens in this case is that both the conditions are actually falling up. Here it won't get true, and similarly here, because is legal to vote is also false and age is also less than equal to 18. So that is why this condition will fall up. Alright, now what I can do is I can initialize this variable to true, alright, and give you an example of an OR statement here. So when I try to do an OR, that is if either of the two conditions is true, it should output the value, and here I say both the conditions are met. Instead the text should be, I say one of the conditions being met will work. Alright, so it's like an OR statement, that is either one of the two should be working up here. I do a run as and say one of the conditions being met will work here. I hope this is clear to everyone. The AND, the operators that I have used here, the greater than equal to, the OR operator that I have used here. Any person having any doubts here? You can write it onto the chat window. I know for people who might be knowing Java, this might be looking a little basic, but this is since this is very much important to know the conceptual knowledge of Java, so we are covering that up. Ankur wants to know the process of running it up. All you need to do is you need to right click on the project here and do a run as and say run as a Java application. The process of running for Android applications will differ from this, because presently we are working on Java applications, so we are doing it like this here. Alright, I hope this is clear to you, Ankur. You can write it onto the chat window quickly. Alright, so any person having any doubts with the use of operators here, how I created the various, I would say the data types here, any person having any doubts here, you can quickly write it onto the chat window. If not, you can just write a no and I'll proceed further. Alright. So there are various unary operators as well. The plus operator, the minus operator, the plus plus operator, and the minus minus operator. So let's take a look at few of those unary operators as well. So let's create an example here. So I'll just comment this up. And what I'll do is, I'll just sys out. I'll be actually needing the responses from all the people, all the attendees here. And I say the age after pre-increment. Alright, and here I'll be outputting the age variable after, or say pre-incrementing it up. That is, I'm actually using a pre-increment operator here. Alright, so let's run it up. Before I run it up, I need a response from everyone here. What should be the output of this complete sample that I'm trying to run here? I need response from everyone. Majority of the people are going with 17 here, and the correct answer to it is 17. Because what is happening in the pre-increment operator is the value of the variable age is first incremented and then assigned to the variable age. While if I try to change it up and I do a post increment here, now can you all tell me what should be the output here? Ankur says 17, and other ones, I'll just run it up only when you people will be responding up. Shashank says 16. I need responses from everyone here. Gurinder, no responses from you yet. Gurinder says 16. Alright, let's run it up now. And here it says the age after pre-increment. It should be post-increment because I have just changed the tag here. And the age after post-increment, it says 16. The reason why it says 16 is, Ankur, I think only you got it wrong. And the reason why it says 16 is, what happens with the post-increment operator is, the value is first assigned, right? It gets first assigned to the variable age and then gets incremented. So in this case, what happens is the value that is assigned to this variable is 16 at this point of time, and after increment, it goes on to become 17. Afterwards, if I try to output it here, that is after here. Alright, if I try to output it here, then I'll get the value 17 here of the variable age. Alright, similar to the post increment and the pre-increment, we also have the negative, that is the decrement operators. And here, I just need a response from everyone here. I say pre-decrement. And if I try to run it up, I think I'm getting majority of the responses correct, which is 15, because the value after pre-decrement will be 15. And similarly, if I do a post-decrement here, it should remain unaffected. Right? It should remain unaffected at this point. And here it is. All right. So I have a poll question for all of you here, just checking your knowledge onto this pre-increment and post-increment here. What are the values of x and z for the expression where x equal to 5, and what I'm doing is I'm outputting the value of x and z wherein x equal to 5 and z equal to x plus plus. So you all can cast your votes onto the polling window that you're seeing on top of your screens. What should be the output of this particular text? I'll wait for everybody to cast up their votes. And here I see a 50-50 result here, which says x equal to 6, z equal to 5, 50%, and similarly x equal to 5 and z equal to 6. So instead of giving you the exact output, the correct answer to it, what I'll do is I'll just cover it up for all of you to take a look, because all the people who have voted incorrectly will be getting an answer out of it. All right. So here I create a variable. I say int x. And I initialize it with the value 5, and what I do is I say int z and I do an x plus plus. Right? And if I try to print out the value of this, and I say the variable x, right? And what I'll do here is I'll output the value of x here plus, and I say and the variable z, and I'll output the value of variable z here. What should be the output? Actually I could not make out from the poll results who voted incorrectly, so I want the output from every single attendee onto the chat window here, so that I can just see who have voted incorrectly here. Before I just run this up, Saurabh says x equal to 5 and z equal to 6. Gurinder says x equal to 6 and z equal to 5. Any other responses? Ankur says x equal to 6, z equal to 5. Any other responses? And Shashank says 6, 6. So let's run it up. And here I run it up, and here you can see the output, which says x equal to 6 and z equal to 5. I'll just tell you about how it got done. Here I have initialized the variable x with value 5, and now what I do is I do a z and I do a post increment. So what happens is the value of variable x gets assigned to z, which is 5 at this point of time. And since the variable x has also post incremented it up, that is, it got the value assigned to z and then it incremented itself. So what happens is the value of variable x goes on to become 6 and the value of variable z comes to be 5 again. I hope the complete example is clear to everyone. For those who actually voted incorrectly for the complete option, now you understand what is the difference between both. Alright, I'll explain to you again, Saurabh. Here what I have done is I have created a variable x which is holding the value 5. Alright. Now when I actually do a post increment, what happens is this value, that is X value, goes to the variable Z first and then gets incremented. So at this point what happens is, suppose this is holding value 5 at present. Now what happens is Z takes the value 5 from X here, and then what X does is it increments itself by 1. It does a post increment. So it gets assigned first and then gets incremented. And if I try to output this up, here I see X and here I see Z, which is holding the value 5, 6 and 5 respectively. I hope this is clear to you now, Saurabh. Alright. So here we have the various categories of operators, and we have arithmetic and the assignment operators. So I have already used the assignment operator for everyone here. So assignment operator, what it does is it actually assigns a value to a single operator. Suppose if I'm using int x equal to 5, so what I'm doing is I'm actually assigning the value 5 to the variable x. So we have 8 arithmetic operators. We have the subtraction, we have the addition, we have the multiplication, we have the division, we have the modulus. So everybody knows about the modulus operator here. Can you just write it up what exactly a modulus operator does here? What it does, if I have say 5 modulus 3, what should be the output of the program that I'm running up? I need a response from everyone here. Shashank says 2, Gurinder says 2, Ankur says 0, Ankur says 3 again. Saurabh, haven't got your response. Alright, so I'll just do it for you here. When I talk about a modulus operator, what it does is it actually creates the remainder, or it gives you the remainder out of the, yes, that's correct, it gives you the remainder out of the output. So here if I say, I'll just comment it up, and if I say x modulus 3, which was the question that I had asked all of you, and I say value of after modulus. Here if I say the value after modulo, and I say 5, which is my variable x, and I say modulus 3. So it should give me an output as 2, because 5 divided by 2 divided by 3 will give me a remainder as 2. Alright, so this is the correct option to it, which is the value 2. I think everybody has got it correctly. Majority of the people have got it correctly. I hope you understand this, Saurabh, now. Alright. So here I have talked about the operators, then we have the various relational operators. So relational operators are used to compare two values. We have the greater than operator, we have the lesser than operator, greater than equal to, less than equal to, equal to. So whenever I'll be using the operator equal to, what I'll be doing is I'll be actually checking for equality. If I say here, if I say x and I say equal 5. Alright, if I try to say x equal 5 here, alright, I have to take it up in a boolean variable here. So I'll just take it up because this equality operator actually returns a boolean variable here, and I say equal, and I say x equal 5. And now if I try to output the value of the boolean variable, which is equal here, it should give me the value true. And it says the value of the variable is true. That is, both the variables are equal. And similarly, if I take a not equal to, and if I say x is not equal to 5, right, then the value of the equal variable would be false here. Right. And here it would be false because the value of x is equal to 5. It is not equal to 5. It is equal to 5, not the reverse of it. I hope everybody understands the equal to operator, the not equal to operator. Can you all just quickly write it onto the chat window, because that is the only option that we people have available for us. And then we have the logical operators, the AND operator, the OR operator. And let's talk about the static versus the non-static variables. So I have already told you about the static variables a little bit. but I talked about it with the help of a method here, which is the public static void main. Now let's talk about the variables. If I try to create a variable, how should I create a static variable? So the static variables are shared across all the objects of a class. So let me remind you all, there is only one copy that is available to every static variable inside the class. While the non-static variables are the ones that are not shared, and there is a separate copy of each individual object. And here it is another important factor here, which we should actually keep in mind while using the static variables here. The static variables cannot be declared within a method. So let's talk about it. So suppose I have created an integer variable 5, and if I try to change this integer variable to a static int and over control S, you can see illegal modifier for parameter x. You can see that it says only final is permitted. So when I talk about final here in terms of Java, what I mean here is you people might have used constants in other programming languages, wherein you cannot change the value of the constants. I hope everybody has used constants here. Quickly write it onto the chat window. Can you all just quickly write it onto the chat window? Are you aware about constants, wherein we cannot change the value of the constants? Right? Similar to the constants we have. Alright, Saurabh is not aware about it. So let me just tell you, Saurabh, a little about it. So suppose if I want to create a variable wherein I don't want the programmer to change the value of the variable, what I'll do is I'll actually create this particular variable as constant. Or when I talk about in terms of Java, I'll be creating it as a final method. So the final way works for both the variables as well as the functions. So if I have created a function in test class which says final function multiply, right? And what I do is I actually subclass this test class into another class, which is say class ABC, and I extend this test class. So I cannot actually override this final method that I have created in test class in my subclass. So that is how the concept of final works with the help of methods. You cannot override those methods. I hope this is clear to you, Saurabh, now. Alright, so here if I try to create a static variable, I cannot do it with the help of a method here. Inside a method, as I told you the very first thing about statics. So what I need to do is I need to move it up, and we need to move it up to the class level here. And if I say public static int x equal to 5, and this all works fine. Alright, now what I need is I need another class to access this public static void main method, or the starting method here. So what I'll do is I'll create a new class here. I say second class. Alright, once I create it up, I do a finish here. In the second class, what I'll do is I'll create a variable age. And now in order to utilize this static method from the test class, what I need to do is, since I cannot actually, let me all tell you one more thing here about statics. I cannot use a static variable with the help of the class object. In order to use a static variable, what I need to do is I need to type the class name dot the operator that I'm trying to use here. So this is the normal naming convention that is followed here. I hope this is clear to everyone. If you are trying to use static variables within classes, that is if you are trying to use it from one class to another, right, then you have to use the class name dot operator and the variable name, it is very much like I would say you people might have used the class variables, right, or the global variables. I should appropriately put it up as global variables. Alright, so this is how it is done, and that is the use of the variable static here. So let's talk about statements and blocks also. So a simple statement is a command. Ankur says just like print command. Didn't get you, Ankur. Can you just come again? What exactly you mean here? Just like print command. I could not make any sense out of it, Ankur. Are you talking about the static ones? Alright, I'll just let you speak. Yes, Ankur, you can speak now.
Yes, just like we use print command, we have to use system.out.println. This is system.out. This is a class, and where println is the command. Then, whenever we want to use the println function, we have to write out the full class address, and then we can use the println command.
That's correct. That's
Println
correct.
function.
That's correct. Ankur has come up with a very good example here. I hope everybody I hope everybody understands what Ankur tried to say here. You can just write it onto the chat window, because this is a very classic example of system out that he has put up here. Thanks, Ankur. Thanks for the example. Nice example that you put up.
Thanks, sir.
All right. So when we talk about statements and blocks here, a simple statement is a command which is terminated by a semicolon. As you people might have seen, I had got all the commands that I am trying to use in my application. I have got those terminated with the help of a semicolon. While a block is a combined statement enclosed in the curly braces. So if I talk about a block, what I have is I have various methods, various statements that I have in a block, and I can have them placed in a curly braces, very much like a normal programming convention that we have. Now let's talk about the flow of control, how exactly the flow of control works in Java. So Java executes one statement after the another in the order they are written. So it is very much like a sequential programming construct that is used by Java. Alright, then we have many Java statements which are flow control statements, which are the if, the else if, and the switch. So I have already told you about the if. Let's talk about if. Let's talk about else if. So if I say static int 5, I'll just remove it up. Instead, I'll just comment it up because I'll be sharing the complete code with you all here. Alright, so I'll just comment this out, create a new thing here. Alright, so here if I say int age equal to 18, and I say if my age is greater than equal to 18, I say you are legal to vote. And if it is not the case, then I can have an else here, and if I say you are not legal to vote. Alright. Similarly, I can have another condition here. I can have an else if here which says age is greater than equal to 25. Alright. And I say you are legal to vote and drink. Right. So what will happen is, first it will check for this condition. If it is correct, it will just execute this condition and just come out of this complete construct. Then if I say it is like greater than equal to 25, it will execute only this condition and it will come out. And if none of the conditions that I have here matches up, what it will output is you are not legal to vote. Alright, so let's run this up, and I'll just do a comment of this class that I had created here. I do a run as Java application, and it says you are legal to vote because presently the age is 18, and if I change it up to say 27, which is the case, to be considered as legal to drink. Alright, and I say alright, I have to change this up because now it is going to follow up the first one condition. I say equal to 18, and I say or I'll just change this condition to greater than equal to 18 and an age is less than equal to 25. I'll just remove 25. Now it should run fine. And here you see the output that you are legal to vote and drink. If I just change it to something which does not fall in any of the particular criteria here, right? And if I say change age to 0, now it should fall in the else, and it says you are not legal to vote. Alright, similar to the if-else construct here, we also have a construct which we call the switch construct here. Alright, So what happens is pre-API 1.6, alright, we are actually able to use only integer variables here in the switch cases. That is, till API 1.6 I can use only integers in my switch cases, but after 1.7 I can also use the string variables in my application. But I would strongly suggest you all that you people do not use the API 1.7 when you're working with Android, because Android is most compatible with the API version 1.6. Alright, which I recently found out when I was trying to use string literals in the switch cases, and I tried to run it on API version 1.7, the code would just not compile up. So it is, I'm just telling you all beforehand, because when you'll be working on Android, you'll be actually using the API version which is 1.6 and not 1.7, because Android is not actually, or I would say the Eclipse presently does not support the 1.7 correctly. I hope everybody is clear with this. And here I can have a switch case on the age here. Alright, I say age and I say values. I can have n number of values here. I can have value as 0, I can have value as 18, I can have value as 25. So this is how a switch case works up. I can have n number of values and I can have n number of sysouts. So depending upon the condition, that is, if age is equal to 0, I will have this particular construct. If age is 18, I will have this, and similarly 25. And default is the one that does not fall in any of the criteria. All right. Now one more thing, I have put a break statement here after every switch case. The reason why I have done that is the Androids or say the Java machine, how it works is it actually checks for the case and then it breaks from the case. So if I haven't put a break here, alright, what it will do is it will run case 0, it will run case 18, and it will then break up. And if I also comment this up, then it will run case 0, case 18, case 25, and then break up. So it is always a good practice to use the break statements after every switch case construct. I hope everybody agrees with that. So I've already told you the if case. Here we have the various conditionals. So here I have the construct for the if else, which is a normal construct. If condition is true, execute some queries, else do not execute the queries. Then we have the switch case construct here. Now we also have the for case, or the, I would say, the iteration that we have in Java. Alright, so in order to use the iteration, let's take an example of iteration as well here. So here, in order to use the for iteration, what I need to do is I need a for loop here. And what I'll do in this for loop is I'll be initializing a variable. I say int I equal to 0, and then I'll be checking a condition. I say I is less than equal to 10, or say less than 10, and then I'll just increment the value here. So how the for construct is laid out here is I have an initialization, then I have a condition check, and then I have an increment behavior. And what I'll do here is I'll just sys out the value of I in for case example, and I just output the value of I here. So it will output the value from 0 to 9 because it won't call up the 10th value here. I do a run as, and I do a run as Java application. I just did a run as Java applet here. And once I do that, you can see the output here onto the console here, which says the value of I for the for case, it says 0 to 9. So this is how an iteration works in Java. Similar to the for iteration, we also have a while iteration. Alright. So in order to use the while iteration, you have a condition. I can use the variable age here. I say age is greater than or say less than equal to 10. Alright. While the condition is true, what I'll do is I'll just sys out the value of age plus I, and here what I'm doing here is also I have to use age here, and what I have to do here is I have to do an increment here. As you can see, I am checking for the condition initially, alright, and then I'm incrementing the value. So this is how a while case construct is laid out in Java. And I do a run as, so it will give me the same output as was given to me by the for condition here, and it says the value of age from 0 to 9. Now I have another important construct, which is the do while. Can anyone from you, all the attendees, tell me what is the difference between a while construct and a do while construct? Because this remains the same for all the programming languages that we have. What is the difference between a while loop and a do while loop? I need a response from everyone here, and that too quickly, because I don't think that is a very difficult question that I have asked all of you here. That's correct. Ankur has correctly answered this one, and he says do while runs the loop at least once, either if the condition is wrong. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Everybody has got it correct here. So let's take an example of a do while 2 here, and I say do. I need some set of statements here while the condition is true. Here comes the condition, and if I say x is greater than 5, which is not a valid condition here, because x is already 0 here, or say age is already 0 here, which is not the valid condition. But if I try to run this up, and if I place some value, or say sys out something into it, and I say the difference is that do while runs exactly, or say do while runs even if the condition is not met once. Alright, so here if I try to run this up, it will output that do while runs at least once even if the condition is not met. So that is the difference between a while and a do while loop here. But before I move ahead, I have a poll question for all of you here, and it says int x equal to 0, double y equal to 100.1, boolean b equal to x equal to y. Alright, what should be the output? What should be our output as per all of you here? Whether it is true, whether it is false, whether it is a compile time error, or whether it is a runtime exception. I'll wait for everybody to cast their votes here. I'll take a minute here and wait for everybody to cast their votes here. I think I need quick responses from everyone. People are not voting up quickly here. Alright, so I have got a very scattered result here, which I see 25% have gone for the option B, which is false, 25% have gone for the option C, which is compile time error, and 50% have gone with the option D, which is the runtime error. So here the correct answer to it is the compile time error, and I'll do it for you here. I'll just show it to all how it is the correct answer. So here I have a variable here. I create a variable x equal to, I say 100. Then I create a double here, and I say y equal to 100.1. Alright, so I have created two variables here. Now what I need to do is I need to sys out the value of boolean variable here, and here the output is or the statement is boolean b equal to, and I say x equal to y, and if I try to terminate this with a semicolon here, it is giving me an error here. The reason why it is giving me an error here is because x and y are both integer variables, and when I'll be transferring the value of x equal to y, because this is not a correct statement that I'm using here. All right, I'll just do that. I'm sorry about that, Ankur. So here what I'm doing is I'm trying to actually have the output in a variable which will be holding a value in either true or false. And here the statements here are not actually giving me the value in the true or false. So it is giving me a compile time error here, which is the correct answer to it. While if I change it to here to equal to, this all works fine, because the operator that I'm presently using is equal to operator and not equal to. So the equal to operator will be giving me a value which would be either true or false, so that I can assign this value to variable b, but which is not the case with the operator equal to. I hope everybody understands this. Does everybody agree with me what is the correct answer to it, which is the compile time error? If not, if any person has any doubts, I'll explain it to you again. I haven't got any responses apart from Gurinder here. Can you quickly write it onto the chat window if this is clear to everyone, so that I can move ahead here? All right, so this is clear to everyone. So I'll just comment this up and let's move ahead. So I've told you the for syntax here. I've similarly told you the while syntax. Then we have also already covered the do while here. And now let's talk about arrays here. So an array is a list of similar things. When I talk about similar things, I mean I can have an array of only integer variables. I can similarly have an array of only string variables. So when I talk about an array has a fixed name, it has a fixed type, and it has a fixed length, right? So these must be declared when the array is created, and the array size cannot be changed during the execution of the code. So let's take an example of an array here. So whenever I talk about arrays here, let me tell you one thing very important here. Whenever I talk about arrays, right, we actually access the values that are held by the array with the help of the indices that we have. So if I have to access the value 6, what I should do is my array under the square braces, I have to key in the value 1, because this is the index of the value that it is holding. So here in the example that I have for all of you here, I have the my array, and the my array has room for 8 elements. All right, the elements are accessed by their indexes or the indices, and in Java the array indices start at 0. So it is not like other programming languages. In some of the programming language, there is the array indices start from 1, which is not the case with Java. It always has the array indices starting from 0. Let's take an example of an array. Let's also cover an array sample here. So before I cover, let me just show you all what are the popular or what are the right array constructions that people have. Here we have float, an array of floats, cars, similarly boolean we have, and here we have also, we can find out the length of the array with the help of the array.length method here. All right, so let's create an array of integers here. I say int array integers equal to, and here I'll be keying in the value of the integers, and I say 1, 4, 3, 8, 6, 9, 12. So this is how I have created an integer array of integers. Now in order to iterate through the array, what I need to do is I need to create a for loop here. I say int I equal to 0. Then as I told you, I have an length method here. I say till the time the length is not equal to the length, that is I has not passed up, or say I equal to 0, I is less than All right, so it is like very much like for the time being the array length is not met, and I do a I plus plus here. Once I do that, what I need to do is I need to output this value here, and as I told you, the out values have to be referenced with the help of the indices. And I say the array value, and what I should do here is array integers. Under the curly braces, I have to output the value of I, because it will keep incrementing from 0 to the number of elements that we have in array. So let's run it up. And here you can see all the values of the items that are contained in the array. All right. Any person having any doubts here with the usage of arrays in Java? Any person having any doubts here? I have got a response from Ankur only. Any person having any doubts here? Here we have a few questions here. Can we increase the size? Can we do something at runtime? Yes, we can do that. And when we'll be covering Android, actually we'll be using Arraylist. So let me tell you about Arraylist here. Because arrays are like very much the old-fashioned way of using things. So here, when I'll be working or we'll be working with Java or the Android components, we'll be using the Arraylist. All right. So when we use the Arraylist, we have the or say we do create an array of type string. If I suppose want to create it up, and I say str equal to new Arraylist, and here what I can do is I can keep adding up elements here. Add string, something, something. So this is all can be done with the help of the Arraylist in runtime, all right? Which is not the case with the arrays. So in order to use this runtime mechanism, we have to use the Arraylist. Shashank. I hope this is clear to everyone. Even Gurinder had asked the same question, I think. All right. So this is how we can do it, because it is just that arrays are primitive. Can we have the example? Uncle, what example do you want me to do here? You want me to create a dynamic array list here? All right, so I'll do that for you. Here I have created an array list here. Suppose if I want to add up n number of elements here, so I create a for loop here. I say int I equal to 0. Suppose I am adding up 10 elements here. I'm just giving you an example of 10 elements. You can add as many as you like. All right. Now what I do is, all right, I have created an array here. Now I need to add this up. So what I'll be adding here is, I say string element, and I say do a plus here, and I'll be adding the value of I. That is, it would be like string element 1, 2, 3, 4 till string elements 9. All right. So once I have done that, what I'll be having is an array of strings. And in order to iterate that, what I need to do is again have a for loop here, which I'll actually create later. So first I'll just add up 10 elements to the array here. I do a run as Java application. So I've added 10 elements here. Now let's run it up and access the value of those 10 elements. In order to do that, what I need to do is I need to int I equal to 0. I have the array here, which is of the type str.length, or say size. It supports the size method here, and I say I plus plus. All right. All right. It's not size. It's str dot. All right. It's str is the one that I'm using here. Okay. This is missing the casting here. All right. That's the reason it was not doing up here. So this was missing the casting here. I don't know what the Let me just go through it once. I don't know what the problem is. It's creating up in size variable here. Alright, oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. I say I is less than size. Thanks for that, Gurinder. I was not able to make it out here. And I do a sys out here. The value of the items. Alright, and I do a plus here. I say str dot get element at index, and the index is I, and this is how I should do it. Alright, so let's just run it up. I'll just close this for loop so that we can just see the output that is needed here. And you can see that the value of the items, and these are the items that I have in my array. So you can have them dynamically added up, or you can have them statically added up from the array. I hope this is clear to you, Ankur, now. You can respond with a yes or no. All right. Alright, let's also talk about the various methods and classes that we have in Java. So a creation of a new object is actually done with the help of the class keyword here. So our class definition can contain the variables, the initialization code, and the methods. So here I have a typical class example for everybody to see here, wherein I have a package. So what I mean by package in Java is, suppose I'm having a big project, alright? And I have created a few classes that take care of only the multiplication processes, and I have similarly created 10 classes that take care of only the subtraction processes in the application. Alright, so I can place them in a package. What I mean by package is I have grouped all the classes that relate to a similar concept in a single package. So that is what the package conventions are in Java. Then we have the class here. So I have created a class here, which is public class car. Then we have the various attributes. As I told you, every particular object has got n number of attributes. So we have various attributes here, and then we have the methods which work on those attributes. So this is an example of a class definition here. And then let's talk about objects. So what are objects? Objects are the runtime representation of a class. So when I talk about when I create a new instance of a class, what I do get is I get an object. So they are the runtime representation of a class, and objects hold the state with the variables. When I mean by an object, if I suppose talk about an example that I had covered in the previous section about, say, car, alright. When I talk about car, I actually talk about all the attributes that come along with the car. So here we have access to all the tires, we have access to the engine attributes and all. So this is how we relate to objects. Then objects do some work with the method. Suppose I told you a method like car runs, alright. So similarly, we have various methods that are actually worked with the help of the objects, and can be created during runtime as follows. Here I have a class name, then I have an object name, then I have a new operator, then I have another class name, alright, new object of the class type. So this is how it is done. Then we have methods. So a method is a named sequence of code that can be invoked by other Java code. So if I take an example here, I can create a method here which will do all this thing for me here. So I say create a method here. I say compute array, alright, and I just close this up. Now if I click here, it will ask me to create the method here. So in order to create the method, I go at the bottom here, and I can just copy and paste this complete code here and try to run this up. So this is an example of a method that we have in Java. What I did was I created a method for it to do some task which I need to be done with the help of a method, right? So a method is a named sequence of code that can be invoked by other Java code. As you can see, I invoked this particular method with the help of the public static void main class method. A method can take some parameters, perform some computations, and then optionally return a value. So it is not necessary for every particular method to return a value. They can optionally do that. An example could be, you can see here, wherein I have a public float convert to Celsius method, wherein it is having a return type as float, and I'm passing in a parameter as the float type, and it is also returning me a float variable. So before I move ahead here, I have a poll question for everyone here. Here is the poll question that I have launched for everyone here. Which will legally declare, construct and initialize an array? You have got 4 options here: int array mylist 123, int array mylist 582, int mylist array 7970, and int mylist array 437. So you all can cast your votes onto the polling window. That's correct, Shashank. They are very much the same like we have the methods in C. So I'll wait for everybody to vote up onto the polling window here. So everybody, it seems, have voted up, and I see a result which says 25% have gone for the option A, which is my list 1, 2, 3, which is not the correct answer to it, because you cannot have an integer array holding the string variables. All right. Then I have the 25% for the option B, which is int mylist 582, which is also not the correct option, because you cannot have the array initialization with the help of the opening and closing braces, which are very much like the normal braces that we have. Then we have the option C, which is int mylist, which is again not the correct answer, because it is actually holding up a double dimensional array. Then we have the option D, which is, as majority of the people have voted up, 50%. It is the correct answer to it, wherein int mylist array and 437 are the correct declaration of the array variables. I hope this is clear to everyone, the examples that I have quoted for all the non-correct ones and the examples that I have quoted for the correct ones. If yes, you can quickly write it onto the chat window. Because the first one, what it will do is it will create an array of strings, not integers. The second one will not create an array because it is not terminated correctly. It is not opened and closed correctly. All right. So then we have the various modifiers in Java. So public modifier, if I want to have access. Here Ankur has asked me a question: what happens if we do not give a return type to a method? So Ankur, if you would have noticed, here I have created a method without any argument list, without any return type, without anything. All right. So this is all valid here. I'm not given a return type. I have given a return type void, that is, it does not return anything, and it works fine. I hope this is clear to you, Ankur, now. All right. Then we have the various modifiers. So these are the class modifiers. So any method inside any class can access this field. It applies to all the class, the attributes, and the methods. So here we have any methods in the class can access this field. Then we have the protected modifier, which says any method in the same class or any derived class. Suppose I have created a class A, and what I'm doing is I'm extending this class A in class B. All right. So then I can have these methods or the attributes in my class B. When I talk about private here, only methods within the same class can access this field. So this is how it completely, how the access modifiers work in Java. All right. So I have another poll question for all of you here. How many bits a Java Boolean variable takes in Java? Is it 1 bit? Is it 8 bits? Is it 16 bits? Is it 4 byte? Or is it machine dependent? You all can cast your votes on the polling window that you are seeing on top of your screens here. Everybody, it seems, have casted their votes here, and 50% have gone for the option A, which is 1 bit, then 25% for the option B, which is 8 bits, and 25% for the option C, which is 16 bits. And the correct answer to it is actually machine dependent. When I talk about a 32-bit operating system, when I talk about a 64-bit operating system, so the size of the variables that are actually used up actually double up. When I talk about the 64-bit operating system, the size of the variable is, suppose if integer takes 2 bytes in a 32-bit one, alright, it will automatically take up 4 bytes in a 64-bit machine, and vice versa. So that is how it works up. I hope everybody understands this, what I mean by machine dependent here. Alright. So I have another few poll questions here for all of you here. Here I have launched a poll question for everyone here. A class cannot be declared as static, private, default, or the public modifier. You can all cast your votes onto the polling window that you are seeing on top of your screens here. I'll wait for everybody to cast up their votes. And everybody has casted their votes here. So 50% have gone with the option B, which is private, but we can have the private declaration of the classes. Then we have gone for the option C, which is default, which is also not the correct answer to it. It is the correct answer to it because default is the one that we cannot have, but we can always have a private access modifier to a class name. I hope everybody understands this. Alright, I have another poll question for everyone here. Which option does not describe the default value for the elements in the type indicated? Is it integer 0, string null, char that is / and use 0000000, float 00f, or is it boolean false, which is not the default value of any of the type indicators here? You all can cast your votes onto the polling window here. I'll wait for everyone to cast their votes quickly. So it seems everybody has casted their votes here, and they have gone for the option C, which is char, and also for the option E, which is boolean. And I'm sorry to say, but both of the options are incorrect here. The correct answer to it is the option B, which is string null. Whenever I talk about a string, alright, and I try to nullify a string, what I should do is, I'll just let you all know about it. Here I have created a string. I say str, alright. I can also specify this null as like this only. I need not put it up in a quotes here. When I put it up in a quotes here as the null variable, it is actually treated as a string, and it is not treated as a null operator here. So that is why it is the correct answer to it. If I'm actually placing up null variables in my string here, alright, then I have to specify this without the quotes that I have placed here. Alright, I think the poll question was just on to everyone. Here you can see the example that I had just created for all of you. I created a string str and I placed it as null. Alright, so this is a legal convention here. While if I try to put it under the quotes here, what happens is this particular value null is not treated as null here. It is instead treated as a string. Alright, it is instead treated as a string. So that is why if you have to nullify a string, you have to do it like this. And that is why it is the correct answer to it. I hope this is clear to everyone. Alright, so any questions, any queries from anyone? You can write it onto the chat window. Any questions, any queries in the topics that we have covered today? Because from now on what we'll be doing is we'll be covering the Android concepts from the second class onwards. So if people are not actually familiar with the Java basic concepts, it is going to be a little bit of a problem for them to understand the Android concepts. So we have tried to cover the Java concepts today, but I will also recommend that everybody should go and visit the edureka.I. Just do it for you here. Alright, you have to go to edureka.I, log in with your account here. Once you log in here, you'll be actually seeing a lot many videos that you can find under the My Courses section. And you go to Android for Beginners here. And here we have put up a whole number of videos for all of you here. Can you all see that? Can you all see my screen here? So if you have any problems, anything that you want to know in Java, you can access these videos and just take a look at these videos. They have been very extensive videos that have been put up for all of you, so that none of you face any problems in understanding the Java concepts. All right. So this is where you can just view those videos. You have access to your accounts 24/7. So you can all go onto the video section and view those videos. And in fact, if you have any problems, like if you come across any problems during the 6 days that we do not have any class here, all right, you can have our support on Skype. You can also contact me on email, and wherein I'll be responding to your queries. So that is how the complete pattern works. All right. So what are the goals for all of you in the coming week is, you have to first get the Android installation setup done on your respective machines. That is the Eclipse environment setup done on your respective machines. Secondly, you have to cater to all the assignments that have been put up for all of you on edureka.in. All right, there have been a lot many assignments that have been put up for all of you here. So you all have to cater to those assignments that have been put up for all of you. Here Saurabh has asked me what the version. All right, Saurabh, I think if you are not seeing that, I'll just tell you where you can just get this complete setup document downloaded. So here, if I go on to My Courses, Android for Beginners, and under the Java review here, you have a document here which says Android installation guide. Can you all see this document here? So we have made a comprehensive step-by-step document for everyone, wherein you just follow this document and you'll get the Eclipse environment done on your respective machines. All right. So you just download this document from here, and then you can just get this done onto your respective machines. All right. So this is how you need to get the Eclipse environment setup done on your respective machines firstly. And then after getting the Eclipse environment setup done, we have posted some assignments for every single attendee here. All right. So you have to just take those assignments, go through those assignments, and you have to submit those assignments to us. If you face any problems in doing those assignments, you can take our support on Skype, or you can just write me an email, in the case which I'll be responding to your queries. So that is how the complete pattern works. All right. And by the end of 6 weeks, we'll be also doing an Android project. So we'll talk about the project as we'll be moving ahead with the course. So this is how the complete pattern is supposed to be followed. Any person having any doubts here? Any doubts in today's session? Any doubts in the complete process that we'll be taking up? You can write it onto the chat window. So I hope everybody has completely understood the concepts that have been taught in today's classes, and they'll be also taking all the assignments that have been put up for them on edureka.in. Right. So I want to see all the responses, or all the, I would say, answers of all the queries that have been put up for all of you on edureka.in, and I'll keep monitoring all the responses from all the attendees. All right. So this is all that I have for all of you in today's class. I hope to see you in the class coming week. And I hope you all enjoyed the class that we had today, wherein we covered some basic concepts in Java. But from moving on to the second week, we'll be actually taking on Android. And I just request all of you to go through the videos and also take the assignments very seriously, because as we'll be moving into the project development mode, we'll be actually covering a lot many more concepts and a lot advanced concepts in Android also. Right? So that is why I just want to prepare you all that keep doing those assignments and you won't be finding any problem in completing the complete project that we have up for sleeve for all of you. All right. And please be reminded that every single attendee has to fill up the feedback that comes up after the webinar. All right. So this is all that I have for all of you today. I hope to see you in the class that starts the coming week. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.
The organizer